Welcome to our deep dive into The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. I know you wanted to really get a grasp on this book, and um, and we're here for it. It's pretty incredible how popular it stayed, blending like Christianity and practical stuff together.
Yeah, it's pretty cool how he brings his faith right into those self-help techniques. It's more than just, think happy and good things will happen. It's like he wants you to tap into a spiritual kind of energy for changing yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Right off the bat, he jumps into believing in yourself.
Yeah.
He's got this story about a businessman just totally crippled with self-doubt. Like he thinks he's about to lose everything.
Oh, wow.
And he's just so down, he feels like he's lost all his assets already.
This is where Peele's approach gets interesting. He doesn't just tell him, like, oh, you'll be fine. He gives him something to do, an exercise. He's like, write down your assets.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like your wife who loves you, your kids, your friends, your health, your faith. It's about taking stock, right? When everything feels like too much.
And that helps.
Yeah. Well, Peele says this completely changes the businessman's whole view. It's like he realizes, wait a minute, things aren't that bad.
Just from writing a list.
Yeah. And then Peele even quotes this psychiatrist, Menninger, who said, attitudes are more important than facts. It's like, whoa, the way we think shapes things.
I like that.
Yeah, it really gets to the heart of what Peele's saying. Not denying what's real, but choosing how we see it, how we react.
Powerful.
And it's interesting, Peele himself, he had an inferiority complex.
Right.
He wasn't always Mr. Positive, had to work through that himself, feeling not good enough.
That makes it more relatable.
Right, like he's been there. And he talks about creative faith as the way out of that feeling.
Creative faith.
Yeah, so it's believing you can reach your goals.
Yeah.
But not alone, like with God's help. Lining up what you want with a bigger power, trusting that through faith, you can overcome stuff you think is holding you back.
Interesting. So even if you're not super religious, it could be like aligning with some kind of purpose or something bigger than yourself. So we've seen positive thinking with believing in yourself. What about like finding peace?
Oh, yeah. Peele gets into that deep, cultivating a peaceful mind. He says it's not something you chase after, it's something you receive.
Okay.
He's got this story, this super anxious guy calls him up, like desperate for some relief.
What did Peele do?
Prayed with him, right there on the phone.
On the phone. Wow.
And get this, it worked. The guy felt this huge peace like he hadn't in ages. It's about letting go, emptying your mind to get that peace.
Interesting. Like surrendering.
Yeah. And there's this other story, a traveling salesman, right? Fighting off bad thoughts by saying Bible verses. To stay calm while driving? Even convinces another guy, Bill, to try it.
Did it work for him too?
Bill was like hiding the Bible at first, all embarrassed, but then he does it and less nervous. It's about the words we choose. Not ignoring the stress, but switching it out for peaceful thought.
Making a calm space in your head no matter what's going on outside.
Right.
Okay, so we got self-belief, peace of mind. What about energy?
Peele connects it all. Positive thinking to that too. Relaxation too.
Yeah.
There's this golfer, right, Frank Hiller, playing a game totally drained.
Oh, I hate that feeling.
Instead of quitting, he says this Bible verse, Isaiah 40.31. It's about finding strength in God. Energy comes back like he plugged into something.
Wow.
Peele thinks God is the ultimate energy source. So by connecting to that, we recharge. He even compares going to church to like plugging in.
I like that.
It's not just physical energy though, right? It's emotional, spiritual too. Finding that strength inside to keep going when you're wiped.
So how do you do that?
Well, it's not just waiting for it. Peele says emotional self-mastery is important. Learning to like control how you react. Being calm.
Okay.
He talks about Benjamin Franklin, how he purposely learned calmness from nature. Even notice how birds start their day slow, singing before they even hop down to get food.
Wow, I never thought of that.
And then Peele has this high-strung businessman try it. This guy's always rushing. Peele's like, start singing before you get out of bed.
Did he actually?
He did. And it worked. Starting the day slower and calmer, less tension, more energy. It's like finding a rhythm that's good for you. Peele calls it God's rhythm.
That's cool.
He even says, talk to your muscles. Tell them, fret not. Picture God's peace all over your body. Sounds kind of out there, but maybe there's something to it.
It's about finding what helps you relax and be calm.
Exactly.
So we've got self-belief, peace, energy, and relaxation. Now prayer, I'm curious about that.
This is where Peele's faith is front and center. Prayer isn't some strict thing, it's a powerful tool, like a science even. for channeling spiritual power. He
Interesting.
tells this awesome story. 3 scientists, they've got this huge business problem, looks impossible. So they decide to pray. But not just alone, together. Like they believe they'll get an answer.
Okay, what happened?
You're not going to believe this. Their prayer was answered. It actually worked out perfectly, even better than they thought it would. Like their faith, all focused together, made a difference.
That's pretty amazing. But it's not just a nice story, right? Peale gives this formula for what he calls creative prayer. Prayerize, picturize, actualize. He had a friend, always facing tough stuff, and this method really worked for him. It's cool how he breaks prayer down into steps.
So first, prayerize your life. Not like always on your knees, but talking to God all the time, making it part of everything you do.
Got it. So it's more than just wishing or hoping.
Right. Then picturize. Get a clear picture in your mind of what you want to happen.
Like a mental blueprint.
Yeah. But it's got to be fueled by belief. You have to actually believe it can happen.
That makes sense. And then actualize.
Right.
That's where the real work comes in.
Right. Taking action, working towards it, smart and hard.
So prayer, visualization, and action all combined.
That's the Peale combo for change. He even tells this story about a woman trying to save her marriage. She's picturing her husband happy at home, even though he's out trying to get a divorce.
Wow. Holding on to that good image even when things are bad.
And eventually, with all the prayer and picturing, things start to change. They reconcile. Our thoughts have power. They can shape things.
We're not just stuck with whatever happens, we can influence it. It's interesting, Peale talks about happiness too. Compares two people. A rich woman, but she's always unhappy, focusing on what's wrong. And then this guy, Ralston Young, a red cap at Grand Central Station,
Yeah.
just radiating kindness.
Oh, yeah, Ralston. What a great example. He's all about spreading joy, looking for the good. Even comforts this young woman who just lost her mom.
Wow.
He tells her her mom's love is still there, maybe even around them right then.
I love that. Love persists even in loss. But Peale doesn't just say, think happy, he says, do something nice. He talks about this businessman, H.C. Mattern, carried a card with steps to happiness.
Oh, yeah, those steps. Be cheerful, think good thoughts, don't sweat the small stuff, have a hobby, do good for others every day, and pray for happiness, of course.
Practical and spiritual. Not just changing your mind, changing your actions.
Right. And he says, yeah, those steps matter, but there's got to be a dynamic spiritual change, too, for real happiness, like aligning your life with God.
He even talks about going to a party.
Yeah.
And all the guests were truly happy. Not fake, like something had changed inside them.
Inner transformation.
Okay, so we've talked about self-belief, peace, energy, prayer, and happiness. But we all hit obstacles, right?
Yeah.
Peale doesn't ignore that. He's got a whole section on it. Starts with this guy, totally despairing, like nothing can help him.
Oh, yeah. And his friend tells him, draw on that higher power.
And it clicks.
Yeah.
He needs something bigger than himself.
That's key for Peale, surrendering to that higher power. We're not meant to do it all alone.
Makes sense. He's also got this story about a failing businessman. Asks a successful editor for advice.
And the editor says, learn the magic of believing. Expect the best, drop the negativity.
Not being unrealistic, but being open to possibility.
Right. And Peale quotes the editors daily, saying, a man who is self-reliant, positive, optimistic, and undertakes his work with the assurance of success magnetizes his condition. He draws to himself the creative powers of the universe.
That's powerful. And it's not just talk. Peale backs it up.
Yeah.
Tells another story, this businessman who used a simple trick to get through tough times.
Oh, yeah. What'd he do?
This guy always turns small problems into huge ones. So he puts a basket on his desk labeled, with God, all things are possible.
Well,
Any problem comes up, paper goes in the basket, leaves it there for a couple days.
and
Did it help?
every time he takes the paper out, problem seems smaller, easier to handle. Literally threw his worries on God, let time and faith do their thing.
I like that image.
It's about replacing those bad thoughts with faith, remembering God's power, not ignoring problems, but facing them with hope and trust.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Relationships. Peale starts with a basic thing, wanting to be liked. Uses this story, a young guy who actually disliked everyone.
Turns out it was because he loved himself too much, couldn't connect with others.
Too focused on himself to see the good in anyone else.
Exactly. So Peale helps him shift that focus outward, get genuinely interested in people, look deeper, see their good qualities.
And it worked.
This guy, who was so closed off, finds a whole world of interesting people, learns that connection comes from giving, not getting admiration.
That's nice. And then Peale gets into heartache, which is tough. Starts with the guy who's lost someone, in deep pain, wants a cure for heartache.
Yeah, and Peele's prescription isn't about erasing the pain. It's about dealing with it in a healthy way. Get moving, be active, don't just dwell on it.
Like physically moving helps move your emotions too.
Right. And faith is key. Turning to God, emptying your heart to Him.
Finding comfort in something bigger.
And Peele talks about believing in life after death. That will be reunited with loved ones, offers comfort, you know. He shares stories that point to life beyond what we see.
He even talks about visiting his mom's grave, feeling sad, then sensing her voice comforting him.
Love never dies.
Now let's talk healing and health. Peale was big on the connection between spiritual well-being and physical health.
He talked about how religion has always been part of healing throughout history. Faith and wellness go way back.
And he mentions this doctor who said lots of illnesses are made worse or even caused by fear and worry. The doctor saw tons more of these cases after coming back from war.
It's powerful how thoughts and emotions can affect our bodies.
Peale also talks about combining medicine with faith, like his friend Dr. Lieb, who started a clinic doing just that.
Dr. Lieb was all about how the spiritual and physical are connected, unresolved emotional stuff turning into actual sickness.
That's like our bodies and minds are talking to each other constantly.
Yeah, exactly. And Peele tells this story about a woman who was super sick, near death, but after intense prayer, she suddenly healed. She felt peace and like Christ was present, and then she got better.
That's wild, the power of faith.
He also talks about this guy who had a heart attack, and they said he'd be an invalid forever, but he refused to believe it. Kept praying, believing God would heal him. And he did, lived a full life after that.
Peale says surrendering to God, letting go of negativity, and being positive are all key to healing.
It's not denying you're sick or hurt. It's facing it with hope and trust.
Okay, so we've seen how positive thinking can impact a lot of areas, but Peale also talks about this idea of easy power. It's a relaxed but effective way to live.
He uses the example of Ty Cobb, the baseball player. Super relaxed batting style, but so effective.
Like he wasn't forcing it, just going with the flow.
Right. Peele tells a story about himself, stressed on vacation, tons of work to do. His friend sees him all tense and says, go sit in the sun.
Sounds like good advice.
It is. And that's all it took. Just relaxing in the sun, stress melted away. He went back to work refreshed, got everything done easily.
Sometimes we just need to step back and recharge.
He talks about meeting Captain Eddie Rickenbacker, a pilot from World War I, super calm under pressure. Rickenbacker had a three-part formula: physical collapse, mental emptying, and spiritual thinking.
Relax, clear your mind, and connect with something bigger.
Yeah. Physical collapse means relax your muscles, let go of the tension. Mental emptying, get rid of worries and distractions. And spiritual thinking, turn your thoughts to God.
Peale was so into this, he started using it himself. Said it really worked to fight tension and stay calm. He even noticed other people finding ways to relax during the day, like a businessman using red lights to practice deep breathing.
It's about finding those little moments to be peaceful. Peele wants us to figure out what works for each of us. Try different things.
He's giving us the tools to take control of our thoughts, our emotions, our lives. It's been really interesting diving into the power of positive thinking. It's easy to see why it's still so popular.
Yeah, it's all about hope, faith, and how powerful a positive mind can be. We have more control than we think.
He wants us to take that control, choose faith over fear, create the life we want. The big thing I'm taking away is that positive thinking isn't about pretending everything's perfect. It's about having hope, faith, and believing we can get through tough stuff.
He wants us to try out his ideas, see what works for us. We're not just along for the ride. We can shape our own reality. It's amazing we can actually change our lives by changing how we think.
He uses this factory owner as an example. His big secret, reading the Bible every day, memorizing it even. He believed filling his mind with those positive words, all that faith, totally changed how he thought, and that changed his life.
It's about putting those good thoughts in your head on purpose. Peele calls it an inflow of new thoughts, getting rid of the negative stuff that holds you back.
So you actually change your reality by changing your thoughts.
That's the idea.
He's got this other story about a young guy who kept failing at everything. But then he changes his whole life by changing his thinking. He starts thinking and acting in line with what Peale calls truth patterns.
Like a light bulb moment, realizing it was his attitude holding him back.
Exactly. He focuses on what he's good at, starts believing in himself, expects good things to happen when he faces a challenge. Peale even gives 7 steps to go from negative to positive.
7 steps. Lay 'em on me.
Okay, first, try going a whole day without thinking one negative thought.
That's tough.
It is, but it makes you aware of how much you do it. Then, every morning, tell yourself, God's with me. He'll help me today. Start the day with hope.
Makes sense. What else?
Read the New Testament. Highlight every sentence about faith, especially Mark 11.22-24.
Okay, got to get that faith strong.
Yep. Then memorize those verses. Say them every day so they stick. And spend time with positive people. Their energy rubs off.
Yeah, surround yourself with good vibes.
Exactly. Next, figure out what's negative about your personality and try to change it. Be honest with yourself.
Ooh, self-reflection time. Not always fun, but necessary.
Right. And last, fix any arguments or bad feelings you have with people. Holding on to anger and stuff just drags you down.
Forgiveness, understanding. Good stuff.
So we've seen how positive thinking can work in lots of ways, but Peale also talks about easy power. It's a relaxed way to be effective.
He uses Ty Cobb as an example, remember?
Yeah.
That baseball player. Totally relaxed swing, but powerful.
Effortless.
Yeah. Peale even tells a story about himself feeling super stressed on vacation, tons of work, no time to relax, and his friend just tells him, go sit in the sun.
Best advice ever.
Right. And that's all it took. Peale chills out in the sun, the stress melts away, and he goes back to work feeling great. Gets everything done, no problem.
Sometimes taking a break is the most productive thing you can do.
For sure. Then he talks about meeting this pilot, Eddie Rickenbacker. Flew in World War I. Always calm, even in crazy situations. Rickenbacker had this formula: physical collapse, mental emptying, spiritual thinking.
Relax, clear your head, connect with something bigger.
Exactly. So first you just let your muscles go loose. Then you empty your mind of worries and distractions, and then you turn your thoughts to God.
Peale loved that method so much, he started doing it himself. Said it helped him stay calm and fight off tension. And he noticed other people finding their own ways to relax during the day, too. Like that guy using red lights for deep breathing.
It's about finding those little moments of peace during the day, to connect with yourself and find that calm place inside. Peale wants us to try different things and see what works best for us.
He's giving us the power to take control, of our thoughts, feelings, and ultimately our lives. This deep dive into the power of positive thinking has been so interesting. I can see why this book has touched so many people.
It really is timeless: hope, faith, and the power of a positive mind. We have more control than we think.
Peale challenges us to take that control, choose faith instead of fear, and go after the life we want. What I'm taking away from this is that positive thinking isn't about ignoring problems or pretending everything's okay. It's about facing life with hope, believing in ourselves, and trusting that we can get through tough times.
He wants us to try out his ideas, see what works for us. We're not just along for the ride, we can shape our own reality.
That's a great way to put it. So, as you think about what we talked about today, what really stood out to you? What part of your life would you like to change? And how can these ideas help you do it? Remember, you have the power to change your life. It's inside you. Embrace it, nurture it, and watch those positive changes happen.
Well said. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. See you next time.